The Bengals are coming off a big-time win against the Chiefs. We'll talk about what the Browns need to do in order to win this football game. Some of the old stuff, a little bit, a couple wrinkles, but this time Deshaun Watson is in the mix. We'll also talk about some new faces. We got a couple guys to announce that are on our IR. We've brought some couple guys in to help us out on defense. It will definitely tell you exactly who those guys are. And then keys to victory. The Bengals and the Browns are going at it for the second time this year. The Browns have been able to do some things to get the Bengals off their spot, but Joe Burrow and the Bengals are actually a hot team coming in. We'll break that down, tell you what the Browns need to do offensively, defensively, special teams, as always, on a Friday edition of the Locked On Brown podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB on ELOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. If things look a little different, they are. I told you earlier in the week, some tinkering, some changes coming, and they have. So back here video wise, G Bush, was, out for a tiny bit this week, some things going on, life always kind of gets in the way. So obviously, but we're back here. We're ready. Cincinnati Bengal week. Appreciate you all for making Locked On Browns your first listen, whether it is on your favorite podcast platform. Of course, YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. You have the notifications on, so when the content drops, you are ready to digest it. And of course, Roku app, if you have it, go ahead, check out, search Locked On Cleveland Sports. You will find G. Bush and myself here, Locked On Browns. You can hear all about the Josh Bell signing in with Locked On Guardians, the Cavaliers. You can hear all about the big win over LeBron the other night. And of course, you can find the crazy crew that is the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Your hosts at G. Bush91, Jeff Lloyd at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. First thing we're basically just, almost like the minutes, like you had a work, what are the minutes, for the work meeting, the minutes. So lots gone on here over the last few days. Congratulations to Donovan Peoples-Jones, voted Special Teams Player of the Week to Tony Fields. You got robbed. I don't care. I do not care. Tony Fields, you got robbed. Pass deflection, forced fumble recovery, interception for a touchdown. That is worthy of a Defensive Player of the Week. Browns signed Reggie Ranglin to the linebacker room. Of course, Sione Taki, tough for him on IR. Free agent at the end of the year. You hate to see this to any guy. Reggie Ranglin comes in. Reggie Ranglin's a body. Years ago, he was a second-round pick. A lot of people had high aspirations for him. At this point, it's going to be Deion Jones. They're going to give Jordan Kumazic some looks, which I'm kind of excited about. Guy fights as hard as he can on special teams. He's gotten some reps at the linebacker position. You got 5 games to go here. Of course, a lot riding on this week. I mean, basically, it went out or it's over. So we'll see. Exactly the way it works there. The Browns yesterday off of waivers picked up wide receiver Jalen Darden. Tiny dude, sub 5'8", Jalen Darden. 20, same draft class as Anthony Schwartz. Returnability, used a lot in, like the kitschy stuff, jet sweeps, jet motion. He's a good return guy. One thing that appeals to me is, everybody knows, former receiver in me, things that help you as a wide receiver. It's just your ability to change direction. 6.67 3-cone drill for Jalen Darden. That's about as good as it gets. So he brings something here. Obviously, I don't know what he can bring you this week, but maybe to get some reps here. Anthony Schwartz, sadly, goes to injured reserve. Whoever wants to get the jokes off, whatever. I mean, look, the kid has suffered his second serious concussion 2 years in a row. It's not a joke about. And when you get a concussion and they put you on IR, like days into it, I mean, that kind of tells you maybe the spot that Anthony's in. So, number 10, hang in there. You hope the best. Does this mean maybe there's going to be some changing at the return? I don't know. Donovan Peoples-Jones looks pretty good. Jerome Ford, he's looked pretty good as a kick returner. So I don't know if Jalen Darden's just walking in here to an opportunity, or this is the guy Browns maybe had their eyes on and he became available. So they jumped at the opportunity. And of course, for everybody, David Njoku will be back this week. So a lot going on here, a lot of fluctuation.
Yeah, there's a lot of places. First of all, shout out to Anthony Schwartz. You got a situation where He's on IR due to concussions, and as always, you don't want to see anybody hurt, anybody concussed, anybody have any issues like that. So shout out to him. He's had a rough couple of years, my hats and goes off to him, and hopefully he can come back next year, healthy and ready to go with a full season under his belt to kind of prove himself. With the other guys, Reggie Ragland, so it's so tough, Jeff, because these Alabama linebackers, they have not shown the same prowess that they've shown in college. I could think of Courtney Upshaw, I could think of Reggie Ragland, I could think of who's the young linebacker that was at Oakland. He was a high value pick in Oakland. Even some of the D Milner, even some of their secondary guys have not, Dre Kirkpatrick, have not turned out to be great pros. I'm not sure whether or not that Saban is already running those schemes that are a little more in depth and getting people in college that don't understand how to attack that, or is he just having the most talent on one side of the football, and teams can't really just compete with it. So that's always a little question mark for me. But when you look at it, he's going to come in. He's going to be just a regular guy. He's not going to be anything, a body at this point. Deion Jones, we got it in trade. And moving forward, that's going to be an area of concern for the Browns. You're already weak up the middle with your defensive tackle play. And then you mentioned you got guys that are not really guys that are really run stopping guys in the middle. Think about where they've been hit. Anthony Walker, season. Phillips, season. Taki, season. That was your starting linebackers, all of them gone. Finito, done already. JOK has missed a lot of time. Deion Jones has just got here, and now you get a guy like Reggie Ragland. So it's going to be imperative. And if the Bengals were smart, which they didn't do the first game, they should have the patience to test this Browns running defense. But when you know how it is, Jeff, when you got Burrow and Chase and all these other guys, they're going to be tempted to throw the ball. And to me, that just goes into the Browns' hands. That they should not be sitting back here throwing the ball 50 times a game, given the way the Browns are looking up front in the injuries at the linebacker position.
For Cincinnati, they've done a good job running the ball the last couple of weeks. Joe Mixon was out himself with a concussion. Samjay Perine has been fantastic for them. He's played really, really well for them. And as a dual threat, was able to fill in admirably here. This Bengals team, we're going to get a little bit more into it here in the second segment. Currently riding a 4-game winning streak. And we're going to talk about, that offensive side of the ball, that passing game. And the thing that's tricky and kind of crazy here is with the Ravens situation now with Lamar Jackson missing time. Granted, the Ravens were able to pull that one out Sunday. But with Lamar Jackson missing some time, maybe the window opens up a little bit bigger here for Cincinnati. If they can get this win, they can maybe find their path, towards the AFC North title, because you got to keep in mind, there's a lot of factors with Lamar. Basically Lamar is looking at being franchise tag next year. Lamar Jackson wants his money. Lamar Jackson deserves his money. So you're going to tell me you're going to go out there, with ligament in your knee, not 100%. You're going to go out there. I wouldn't do it. I have nightmares of RG3 years ago for the Washington then Redskins going out there a little hobbled. How'd that work out for RG3? Didn't work out really well at all. So you definitely have some, cause and concern there. We are going to switch it up here, though. Obviously, a bunch of new faces here in the building here over the last couple of days. Reggie Ragland's a veteran. If anything, maybe this might be somebody where guys can pick the brain. If Tony Fields can pick his brain a little bit, JOK can pick his brain a little bit. In the first video we saw of him yesterday, I saw that number 19. I saw Reggie Ragland, and I said, yeah, he was on the Vegas practice squad, and he was hitting every buffet in town because Reggie Ragland, compared to our normal linebackers, look, I keeps auditioning to maybe go to D tackle. I'm not going to that linebacker room. We're going to get to segment 2 here. G. Bush, Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the United States, the UK, Canada, and even now in Australia. Book a spacious SUV or a minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or a luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you are on a budget and just need to get from A to B. Test drive that new electric vehicle you've had your eye on to see how it fits your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive today at Turo.com.
Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. We got a couple little bells and whistles here. We're trying to get it together for y'all. We got a little something, do a little reinventing ourselves, so to speak, little decorations here or there. But the basis.
Steve's over there. I love it. Is all his new D.
Oh man, I got all kind of stuff over here. You didn't even know it yet, man. Wait till you see this, man. Man, but the current theme stands the same. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe, and also you download our podcast and make us the first listen of each and every day. We want to thank you guys for doing that. You can follow me at gbush91. Follow Jeff at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd as well. Another game we got coming up that is a must win. The Browns have done some things and they've been really exciting. I wouldn't say exciting, but they've been really solid the last 2 weeks. Anytime that you can come in and get you a win against a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then come in and we know the Texans were horrible. We know they were trash, but at the end of the day, we're going to take that win. You know why? Because it's a must-win situation. These are all things that we have to finish off and do it. But Jeff, I will say one thing. The Bengals are coming in hot. The Browns, they've won 2 in a row, but the Bengals, it just seems like we have the Bengals number, but the Bengals now have the Kansas City Chiefs number, and we were never able to be successful against the Chiefs. It seems like it's a matchup thing, but when you look at Burrow's stats, he's in the top 3 since going 0-2. Since going 0-2 in the first 3 games, he's in pretty much every top 5 category in terms of percentage, completion percentage, in terms of passing yards, in terms of touchdowns. He's really turned this thing around. Jamar Chase came back from injury last week, 90 receiving yards against the Chiefs. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, they should have Joe Mixon back. But I'll tell you what, Samaje Perine has been running the ball very hard. Those Oklahoma backs in the backfield, Perine is running like his name is Kareem Hunt. He's been running the ball. Not one person can take him down. And so you look at it, the Bengals are quietly, slowly but surely, I guess, getting good, getting hot at the right time. And Jeff, your thoughts on what the Bengals present for the Cleveland Browns and the issues or problems they present.
Well, you look at this passing game, and when you put together, the group that they did, Joe Burrow at the quarterback position, T. Higgins at the wide receiver position, Jamar Chase, obviously at the wide receiver position, and the holdover who was here before any of this even went down in Tyler Boyd, a guy who was growing up playing next to AJ Green, found his role. He's a killer over the middle. Then you add Burrow, then you add Higgins, then you add Jamar Chase. For me, I was always a doubter of, did you put enough in place to make sure your investment at Joe Burrow at the number 1 overall selection is there? And to be fair, the Bengals offensive line has been better recently. They have been better, and they're able to run the ball better to kind of offset it here. But this is all about the arm of Joe Burrow. There's no question about it. MVP candidate, rightfully so. He will be for many, many years to come for this franchise. Chase is his big play weapon. Higgins is kind of his, crucial weapon. Last week, I think it was 3rd and 14, hit him on a little skinny post. Higgins got himself behind the safety, behind the linebacker in front of the safety. Burrow drops a dime in the spot, clinches the ball game. Bengals win against the Chiefs. And for a lot of people, you've heard a lot this week, the Bengals have beaten the Chiefs 3 straight. Joe Burrow hasn't beaten the Browns yet. Look, sometimes these things don't mean what y'all want them to mean. You know what I'm saying? It's just an odd coincidence. And we'll get to this a little bit in the third segment here of why the Browns seem to be successful week in, week out. But it goes through Joe. It just absolutely goes through Joe Burrow. You just have all the talent around him. Jamar Chase came back, as he said, 90 yards back in his first action. So he's good to go. The Browns, though, it's beneficial for them. Look, that cornerback room this year at times has been a revolving door. A lot of guys have missed time. So this way, you're Joe Woods. You get to play this the way you want to play it. Denzel Ward, Jamar Chase, I don't think anybody wants to see those guys on anybody. They want to see those two all day long on each other. Jamar Chase has a ton of respect for Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward the same way around. Doesn't mean they don't want to go out there and beat each other's brains in. No. Martin Emerson, he looks to be the guy that you said, all right, well, T. Higgins is going to be your guy. He's a bigger receiver, a longer receiver. Greg Newsome, you were grooming to be your nickel corner. And this is going to be a tough matchup for Greg Newsome because you got a guy who excels in the slot. And Tyler Boyd, this is what Tyler Boyd has done his entire career. He's just a money player there. So it's going to be fun from that respect of the fact that there's going to be a lot of guys out there that are quality players. Somebody's going to get somebody, then somebody's going to get God. It's just the way it's going to work with a matchup like this. For the Browns, we're going to get to this year. The question is going to be, how long can they hold the ball? Because the reason the Bengals have been successful as they were last year and going right down that trail again this year with 4 straight wins, last loss was the Monday night game to the Browns. But the key to it all, for them is they get hot, they get confident, they keep going. And Joe Burrow, for as talented as he is with the ball in his hands and throwing the ball, he's just as smart. He's had an interception to the last couple of games. They're tip balls. It wasn't on him. Players made plays or his guys dropped them. Joe Burrow is legit guy, and we'll see the way it all plays out on Sunday when the Browns do travel down to Cincy for this one. But, gee, this is a matchup. I know you like your trench play. But for me, you want to talk just athletes on athletes as far as wide receivers versus cover guys. This has got the makeup to be a very, very special day.
Yeah, it's time to put up or shut up. I remember a couple years ago, not even a couple years ago, last year, there was a big talk about Newsome as well as Denzel Ward, talking about how Browns were able to shut those guys down. Newsome, being a rookie, had a lot of 2 or 3 pass deflections on Jamar Chase. And when Jamar Chase was playing, he was coming in at all-time high. The guy was out there playing at a prolific level that we haven't seen in a while, especially from a rookie. And the Browns were able to come in. Denzel Ward had the pick 6, and they moved down the field really effectively that first drive. But Denzel Ward, that pick 6, I think, changed the complexion of that entire game. And you saw a big run by Nick Chubb, a big long run by him running through the secondary of the Bengals. This one right here has all the makings of a great passing, throwing type game, and that's what the Bengals are going to do. The Bengals are going to come out here. They feel like they got the best 3 receivers in passing game in the league with T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Jamar Chase. They feel like Joe Mixon can catch the ball out of the backfield, and they think Joe Burrow is second to none out of anybody in the league. So this is going to be a really great one. Secondary versus receiver is going to be really on the screen, and it's going to be a big time matchup in a game that the Browns have to have if they want to keep their slim playoff hopes alive.
It comes down to this. And look, the Browns are going to go hard for the last 4 games after this one, regardless. You have a quarterback, you have to get primed and ready for 2023. So that that's not going to be the thing. But the thing is what's going to be left to play for? Are you going to be playing for something? So, we do have to see the way this unfolds. This is a big one. We're going to talk a little bit here. We're going to go to our final segment here. Deshaun Watson, 2020, he did face the Bengals. We'll get a tad bit into that. And we'll get into the simple reason of why this Browns team has won 4 straight games against Joe Burrow. It ain't rocket science. It ain't like over crazy coaching. It's nobody's got a scheme. These 4 wins that the Browns have over Joe Burrow to this point, it's been mano a mano. It's kind of how it's done. So we're going to get into that as we carry on through here. Locked On Browns, G. Bush, Jeff Lloyd. Appreciate you all for joining us here. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for sports betting info, stats, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, we've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. G. Bush, Jeff Lloyd. We're looking to have a big game this week, and the only place to watch the post-game show is the 2-minute warning. We will be on at the 2-minute warning live, so you'll get all our instant commentating, all our instant comments. You'll be able to get your comments shown. We'll be able to, get your, talk a little bit as the game is going on and recap the game. Only thing in the game moving like that at the 2-minute, 2-minute warning. We saw some great games. The comeback against the Buccaneers. We've seen some crazy things happen, like the comeback from the Jets, which we might rue today. We even did that thing. So there's you get to see the raw emotion up live, close and personal, and we do that with you guys on a 2-minute warning. Make sure you go to get that. You can use the Locked On Browns. You can download and subscribe to the Locked On Browns podcast, and then guess what? You'll automatically get it. A notification said, hey, the guys are on and we're doing the 2-minute warning. You could also definitely do that with Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. You can subscribe to that, download that as well, follow on Twitter, and you will get that notification as well. Jeff, we talked about a lot of different things so far. We've gotten to some of the new faces. Some of the guys is going to be in IR, like Anthony Schwartz. We talk about what the Bengals have done that'll really make them coming into this game one of the hottest teams, and what kind of things the Browns defense and the Browns in general have to look for. But now let's get into what the Browns have been able to do. The Browns have been really solid against the Bengals, and it seems like they've had their number. They've been able to do some really good things. I think we mentioned earlier the Denzel Ward pick 6. I think that changed the game. And I think even when you look at that last game, you see how well you can play if you get some defensive play, if you could get some complementary football in the way what you're doing, and you can get your special teams ready to go and play. You look at it, all the extra points were hit by Cade York. He hit all of his field goals, and you talk about the punch, right? Talk about the punch. 55-yard average, downed inside the 10-yard line twice. So when you get in that kind of complimentary football, what happens is you force a team to take the ball and go 90 yards. And one of those drives, the defense was able to get a fumble on a quarterback sneak and run that in by Denzel Ward. You look at another time they're inside their 25-yard line. You get the tip, interception, pick to the house. So that's 14 points off those turnovers that you get. However, it's just not you got the turnovers. It's because you were able to play complementary football and your special team set you up to get those. The Browns have also did one more thing. They ran the ball well. Anytime, we know what it is. We know what the stat is. If Chubb gets over 20 carries, you know what it is. The Browns are undefeated. And even if you do got Deshaun Watson back now, Chubb is still a very important factor into keeping this game moving and to keeping this game close, and also to make the Bengals be accountable where they can't pin their ears back with Hubbard and Hendrickson into rushing Deshaun Watson in the pocket. So I think running the ball will be key, and complementary football as well. Your thoughts on how the Browns have been successful in the past, and how do they replicate that, Jeff?
Well, I'm going to start just with this, though. Deshaun Watson did play the Houston Texans Week 16 in the 2020 season. That game was in, if I remember correctly, Cincinnati, 24-33, 337, 3 scores, ran for 60 yards. Granted, a lot of faces have changed in Cincinnati since that time, but, Deshaun, in what was a very, very poor year for the Houston Texans, very similar to this year, he had a monster day. Deshaun Watson's going to have to play better than he did last week. There's probably maybe 2 teams in the NFL he can play like that, and you're going to get a win. And this is not one of them. The Browns are not going to see another one of those teams this year. He certainly is going to have to make some throws. But it's simple. What has been gone on over here, where Joe Burrow has not beaten the Browns yet, and the Browns have beaten Joe Burrow 4 straight times. What the Browns excel at, running the football, and with Myles Garrett ruining your day. Myles Garrett continues to ruin the day for Joe Burrow every time he sees him. I was saying last night on the crossover episode with the Bengals guys, they think Jonah Williams is a pretty good left tackle. The problem is Jonah Williams, every time he sees Myles Garrett, it's over. It's just one guy he cannot handle. And Jonah Williams is not a Pro Bowler, a good player, but he just cannot handle Myles Garrett. Not a lot of people in his league obviously can. Myles always seems like it's just a little bit more geeked up, amped up to go against this team. Always makes plays. He is a constant presence. And if you remember the earlier matchup, that was when Sione Takitaki really started to find his own. He was a monster that game. Rookie Isaiah Thomas was involved. Had a sack that game. But you get up, then you run the ball like you do. And Cincinnati, it's crazy that Cincinnati has these issues, because if anybody should know the Browns running game well, it should be a team that faces them twice a year. But every time, it kind of seems to be rinse, repeat. They cannot stop Nick Chubb. get the guards in the holes on the pole. Now they're taking out crucial would-be tacklers. You got Wyatt Teller diving, knocking safeties 12 yards back. Joe Bitonio manhandling linebackers. And the Browns running backs run for days. Then you start to tweak in your play action. You get up, and you're putting Cincinnati in obvious pass situations. And the Browns have always responded by being able to tackle well, even if he's dumping it off. And if you remember last time, Joe Burrow was dumping the ball off a ton because it was to the point where he was losing faith in his offensive line. They didn't have Jamar Chase, but granted, the Browns didn't have Ward. So that is definitely going to up the case here. So if Chase is back, I'll take Ward back. If the Chase wants to sit out, I'll let Denzel Ward sit out. That's for a matchup. I'll take that all day long. But you're going to have to continue. If you're the Browns, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Until Cincinnati shows you they can stop your running game, or until they can show you that they can take Myles Garrett out of the game from being an overall top pass rusher in this league, because every time he faces the Bengals, he looks like one. So until I see it, I don't believe Cincinnati's capable of it. Does it thwart what Cincinnati's going to do for the rest of the season? Probably not. There's enigmas in sports. Every now and then, there's just a team, they got your number. You just don't match up well. They're just better than you in each and every time they play. And for Joe Burrow's time against the Browns, that has been the case. Could it change? Yeah, hopefully not. Will it change soon? Again, hopefully not. Joe Burrow's a talented player, but the Browns just seem to have that number, and it's been crucial for them. They get turnovers, they run the ball, they get after Joe, they get ahead, they put them in a difficult position. So we're going to expect this. I'm looking forward to this one. I want to see Deshaun in week 2. I know that the Browns see Cincinnati and they come to play week in, week out. It always seems like somebody they up it up at a little bit of a notch to go ahead and play these Bengal teams.
Well, it's always been a rivalry, but I think people want to view it as a rivalry of teams that are pretty good.
Yeah. It's both teams, and this is the first time that I'll say that both teams have had a really, besides Boomer and Bernie, this is the first time both teams have had really, really dynamic quarterbacks. And then you throw Lamar Jackson in there. So, this division has, to me, this division in the NFC East is the division where it's so many built-in rivalries. Like when you talk about, the Browns really don't like none of these people. And I think one of the things, the Bengals are starting not to like the Browns because we keep winning these football games. So this is one of the things where I'm really looking forward to it. And it's going to be a good one. Hopefully Deshaun Watson looks a little bit more like Deshaun Watson, because if they want to win in Cincinnati the way the Bengals are playing, they're going to need that big time.
Yeah, Cincinnati definitely is not a full secondary team. They're not great in the secondary. Awuzie is not going to play this week. And we all know what Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper have done at this point. You factor in David Njoku, who did not play that Monday night game either. So keep in mind, David Njoku was not part of that game. So we got a lot of guys in this game. Because if you remember, that's when the Browns were running a lot of 2 and 3 tight ends and calling them tight ends. All extra offensive linemen and calling them tight ends in that game. So David back here, he's always had a nice career against Cincinnati Bengals as well. We'll just continue to put you guys out the greatest content we possibly can here. Just a little bit of shaky week. Obviously, things go on. We had to make a little bit of alterations, but we're just doing all we can to give you guys the best Cleveland Browns coverage we possibly can. Garrett Bush, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Monday through Friday, 11 to 1, 92.3 The Fan. The barbershop is open every Saturday at 8 a.m. till noon. Other appearances to catch Garrett over there. Pre-game, post-game coverage for your Browns, your Buckeyes, your Guardians, your Cleveland Cavaliers. Make sure you're following at GBush91, myself, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. Show itself at Locked On Browns, follow back account. We appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day, whether it is on your favorite podcast app, here on YouTube. Subscribe. Make sure you got the notifications on. Throw some likes on those episodes for us, guys. Just helps with promotion. And if you got the Roku app, go in, search Locked On Cleveland Sports. Again, you will find me and G here. You will find the Locked On Guardians, Locked On Cavs, and you will find G and the crew from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Go ahead. Big screen, big TVs. If you guys do it, you like it, man. Maybe G, you'll still have to makeup up. G will keep his makeup on when he leaves the studio for y'all. So we get that beautiful, shiny face for you all here. Browns, Bengals week. It's always a fun one. Browns, will this season go on as far as, having a chance? Can the Bengals snap the string? Things that we're all going to see. Again, just trying to give you guys the best coverage we can here. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.